Hello, Frances.
Hello, Isabel.
How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully this evening. And you, how are you today?
Very good this morning. How long have you created Eat the Cake and how did you get started?
So, Eat the Cake Studio came to life in 2019. And how we got started is it's one of those stories where it can go back to almost the 2000s when I was living in San Francisco and I was working at a production company, and I was very much into interactive content, transmedia, but society and technology hadn't gotten there yet. So fast forward to Paris, I moved to France. I become a tour guide because what else do you do if you don't even speak French at the time? And
Yes.
as a tour guide in Paris, people always kept asking or kept saying, oh, at least my experience was they'd always say, wouldn't it be so nice to feel what it was like back then? And that always stayed with me. And so, moving forward again, I was working at a video game company, and I was confronted with this idea of I found that content was very one-sided and that there was no co-creation. Even though it was a video game, there was no connecting with the audience or really immersing them or bringing them into the universe. So at one point, I knew that I was ready to do something else. And I had my cousin in town, and I took her to Versailles. And as we were walking around, she said, wouldn't it be so cool to see what it was like back then to like walk the chateau dressed in a costume? And I had that click of like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. And so at that point, that was roughly around 2019. And it was towards the end of 2018. And I said, okay, I'm going to leave this video game company and I'm going to start my own company. And I'm going to bring along with me a couple of my old coworkers, another friend from San Francisco, and we're going to put together an immersive entertainment studio that really immerses people in the content they're experiencing.
You call those immersive experience, and how would you describe the Them Eat Cake experience?
Right. So Let Them Eat Cake is the first experience we designed. So we are Eat the Cake Studio, and we designed Let Them Eat Cake. And so Let Them Eat Cake is an immersive theatrical production that has elements of escape game or immersive game and cinematography. So the decor, the sets are fully designed, rich texture, as if you walked onto a movie set. The audience or the participant, they arrive, we dress them up head to toe. So we put them in full noble and royal gear or regalia. We dress them up and they enter a party where all the actors are dressed just like them and everything is happening around them. So they're 100% immersed in this theatrical production where there is live music, where there are things to eat, where there's a singer, and then there's actually a theatrical through line or a storyline that happens. And at some point, there's also some elements of an immersive game or escape game where they actually have to do some things in order to help our king and queen escape. So it's an immersive where we use all the five senses to recreate the world of Versailles and have the participants become part of it.
So it's very educational. And how is it a different experience for tourists?
So it is educational. One of the things we wanted to do was we're big fans of history and stories. Again, as one of my favorite things as a tour guide was learning the stories of all these beautiful places that you walk by in Paris. So otherwise, maybe you don't know that that street corner had a really unique history behind it and a really fascinating story. So as lovers of story and history, we wanted to merge the two so that when tourists came, they would get a deeper, richer understanding of what was French culture or what is French culture and what was French history, besides just going from museum to museum or on a tour, which are beautiful. Again, I was a tour guide, so it's great. But to be able to have them step one foot further and walk away with a little more knowledge, a little more understanding, a little more history, so that the next time they hear the words Marie Antoinette or Versailles, there's a more visceral experience like, oh, okay, I know that. I know a little more. So while they're in the experience, they're learning a lot about what it was like without it being like a history test. You know, they really they get to live it, and through living it, they get to learn it and become it.
So I imagine that there are a lot of logistics before and after the experience. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Sure, yeah. But before and after the experience, there's many. So, firstly, what I will say is that what we've done is created a universe called Versailles Imagined. And in this universe, we've created a few different experiences. So we have Let Them Eat Cake, the live show, and that is our live production, which is unfortunately currently on pause because of the pandemic. And then from that, we also created a more intimate experience where we took the similar characters, we took the queen and two of her favorites, and we created a more intimate, smaller group. And that one's called Ladies of Versailles. And then we have a video game we're actually creating, an interactive narrative, again, all within the universe of Versailles, this one on the affair of the necklace, the big scandal. And in all of them, they all have very similar logistics. Even the video game, where it's all about, we need to come up with the story, we need to come up with the script, you know, the scenario, the decor. In the live production, there's sourcing all of the decor, building the sets to have it be true to life. For the video game, everything is going to be shot. All the cinematic sequences are going to be shot on site on a location that's Versailles based. So there's all the logistics of the actors rehearsing, or casting, rehearsing, costuming, the decor, working with our historical consultant. We have two, actually. We have the historical consultant who helps us on the story, so that we can keep to history, but also create an entertainment around it. And then we have a musicologist who's a specialist in music of the court of Marie Antoinette. And so, because we want everything to be as lifelike and as entertaining as possible. So there's all the elements that go into the same elements that go into producing a film or a live theatrical production go into producing these. In our smaller one, because that decor is a little different, we can also come to you at your hotel. Our actresses, our characters can come to you. In that case, we're bringing, we have the costuming, we have our makeup, we can give you a makeover. We offer a royal picnic. So, we work with our partners to bring you picnics, we bring you champagne, all so that you can, again, have a full multi-sensory experience around the universe of Versailles.
So we understand that this immersive experience is for tourists. And do you have any option for those who cannot travel to France, who do not live in France? But I understand this is mostly for tourists who visit France. Have you ever had hybrid events?
That's a great question. We actually did last year. Last July, we launched the Ladies of Versailles. Originally was an online experience, a live streaming experience, where we would have one of our three characters host a maximum of 12 people via Zoom. And we recreated as best as we could an audience, an audience with the queen or one of her favorites, where there would be lots of little ateliers or little workshop or little activities to do together, all based on a theme. So for instance, with Marie Antoinette, we created our own version of Le Jeu de Loi, or the game of goose. We created our own version where you can play in person or online with the queen at the same time. And as you play and you fall on a different square, she'll tell you the story that's associated. And you learn all about the history of Versailles and the emblematic characters that way. Or with our Duchesse de Polignac, you learn about all the sexy scandals of Versailles. And you sing like the sexy Mozart song, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, actually has a whole other sexy version that Mozart wrote. And that is quite sung in France, or at least back in that era. So there's all of that. And then our third one is with Mademoiselle Montensier. She was the royal makeup artist of Marie Antoinette at that time. So with her, you do a full makeup tutorial. Online, you learn how to do your hair and your makeup, or your hair and your makeup in the Rococo fashion, while she gives you all the gossip of the court of that time. Now, that experience is actually still available on Airbnb online. So that one we put on Airbnb online. The other two we ran separately. Right now, we don't know if we're going to relaunch them. We're waiting to see how people respond to online experiences again.
Yes.
And so, but they're always available. So if anyone is ever interested, they could always say, we'd love to do an online experience, and we're ready to go. We have them. And then, of course, there's our video game, which we will launch next year.
What are the historical characters that you are most proud of, and what character is the most popular among the participants who plays them in the story?
So the characters we're most proud of, it's hard because what we love is when we feature the characters, it's because we love them. And so already one of our passions is featuring amazing women of the era. And so, yes, Marie Antoinette is a name everybody knows, but not everybody understands her or understands her history. And so one of the big things we wanted to do was make sure that people had an opportunity to actually get to know her, and not just, oh, let them eat cake, which, she never said. It's like, well, who was this person thrust in this really unique, fascinating moment in history that then became this iconic figure that we know a little bit? So, someone like her, or even someone like Montancier, La Montancier, which is a character we also recently discovered thanks to one of our partners. Very few people know her, but she was an amazing woman of the era. She worked herself through the ranks of non-nobility into the graces of the court and the graces of the queen to become one of her closest confidants. She ran over 20 theaters in Paris. She had her own theater in Versailles. She had her own makeup line. She had this beautiful life of all these affairs, and yet no one really knows much about her or knows how important she was in that time. So for us, we're just really proud to bring those characters to life for people to get to know them. And for our actors, they just love, in general, playing these characters. They love, it always happens that when they put on the clothing, you see them completely change. They'll take off their sneakers and their sweaters, and they put on the clothing of the era, and they start walking differently. And then you hold yourself differently once you're in the clothing. So you're already transported into that character. One thing we found, yeah, exactly.
Right, you're acting, and but what is the most popular among the participants? What character do they choose the most?
So inevitably, it's Marie Antoinette. People want the queen. However, what we found was really interesting was the character of Montancier. So before we discovered that Montancier existed, we created a character. So we only had 2 fictional characters out of a cast of 11. She was originally designed, she was La Duchesse de Potin. She was originally designed to be the personification of gossip, because we needed gossip to be an important character in the live story. So we created Potin. And then when COVID hit and we had to go 100% online, we started testing online. We went onto Facebook and did Facebook Lives first. And we had these moments we had cocktails with the court. And it was 30 minutes live Facebook, and you can come and interact with one of our characters at cocktail hour, and they tell you stories. And from there, we realized that at that point, Angélique de Potin, La Duchesse de Potin, started becoming a character everybody loved. And it's also her personality. She's just radiant, and she had all the great stories, and just her personality. She was the nobility of like telling all the gossip, and you want to know what happens behind the scene, because the queen can't really do that. It's not her state, her statute. She's not supposed to do that. And so we just kept going with La Duchesse de Potin, and then she transformed into Mademoiselle Montancier. Though she's still the same character, but now she has all these other stories about the theater and high society and all her lovers. So she's turned out to be one of the favorites with our participants.
Can you present to us briefly your team and tell us something nobody knows about you?
Mm-hmm. So we are four. We're a woman-run company, and we're really proud of that. So with me, I've got Maddie Coffin, Marie-Louise Coffin. So she's our resident Frenchie. So she worked with me at the video game company. She was my lead narrative designer. So she is right now also our lead narrative designer. She's the project manager on our Choose Your Own Adventure video game. And so whenever we need anything written, we go to Maddie as well. Then we've got, she was also the lead writer on the Let Them Eat Cake, the show. Then we have Elena Odessa Ray. So she's our resident performer. She's also a metteuse en scène. So she comes from everything that is theater, always theater and film. She's the one that does all of our casting, wrangles our entire cast, helps us with all of that, is also budgets and everything that has to do with our cast and our cast and crew as well. And she also helps a lot with our business development. And then we have Jennifer Kwong, or Jen Cat. And she comes from, I met her in California, in San Francisco. And she happened to marry a Frenchie like me, moved to France. And at that point, I was building the company. And I said, you're coming with me. She has a master's in business administration. She comes from event design, event planning, especially large scale events. And she's an avid fan of huge events like Burning Man. I think she's gone like 17 times. And so she's really great when it comes to looking at the nuts and bolts of the logistics of everything we're organizing. And then myself. And something people don't know about me. I think something people don't know about me, I would say, I at the age of 16, I became a suicide prevention counselor. So I worked on a hotline. I was the youngest at the time to ever work at the hotline. I worked the hotline for a year, and I would go twice a week in the evenings and sit by the phones and talk with people who were having just problems. Fortunately, not many suicide attempts. There were a few, unfortunately, but we were able to get there in time. There was the protocol, but I just remember being 16 and talking to people who were 30, 40, 50, who were going through marital or all these issues and confiding in me. And I was just a young 16-year-old. And yet it was one of my favorite moments in my upbringing. And I think it's what helped me really learn, experience my passion for leadership, positive communication, and just collaborating and working with people.
That's great. Yeah, really, really congratulations on first creating your own business and helping people when you were young, at a young age, right? You were giving hope to people. And again, this time you are going to give us some tourists, our tourists, some history, some stories telling about Versailles, and we look forward to meet your team. And I'm hoping, having people, my friends from Las Vegas to Versailles next summer.
We're going to transform you into ladies of the court. You're going to be fabulous.
Right.
And we'll have all the pastries, the champagne, everything will be perfect.
Yes, and we can give a little week to Molly, and because we did an interview about her. So
that's great.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah,
So
one of our partners is Molly in Versailles. So, and as we were chatting earlier, one of the things we've now worked on is actually hosting groups at Molly's for a pastry tasting or a pastry class. And one of our characters, the queen or one of her favorites, will show up to give you all the inside scoop and gossip and stories of life at Versailles.
To all my readers, rendezvous in Versailles again in June, end of June 2022.
Absolutely. We'll meet you there. We'll do something special just for you and all your readers.
Thank you so much for answering my questions, Frances.
Thank you so much
for your time. I know you're busy, so it was great to talk to you today.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate the opportunity. And again, I look forward to hosting you to our version of Versailles when you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you.